The Circle is directed by James Ponsoldt and stars Tom Hanks, Emma Watson, and John Boyega. It's from the same director as the guy that made The Spectacular Now. And this movie follows Emma Watson's character, May, as she gets her dream job working at the most powerful tech and social networking company in the world, called The Circle. As time goes on, she begins to take part in the company's newest experiments, which seem great at first, but then she realizes that the roles she plays in these experiments are starting to have dramatic effects on people close to her. This was actually one of my most anticipated movies of the year for quite some time. I was really interested in this concept when I saw the first trailer, and I thought it would be kind of like The Social Network, but more involved in like privacy rights and government surveillance and all that stuff. Also, the cast is incredible. Tom Hanks, John Boyega, Emma Watson. These are actors who I'm all a huge fan of. And Patton Oswalt and Bill Paxton play smaller characters in this movie, so that's great. So, how's this movie? Frustrating. The Circle is a pretty terrible film. It's so excruciatingly bland. It has flat characters, dull performances, a script that just goes nowhere, and for this being one of my most anticipated films of 2017, it disappointed the hell out of me. First of all, I found myself struggling to find one reason to care about Emma Watson's character besides the fact that she got this new job at a cool company and it's a huge step up from her old job. Also, her parents are going through some things and her father has an EMS problem and she's really worried about him. That's all the development that this character gets. We know nothing about her other than these two things. I couldn't really find anything interesting or endearing about her character. Also, she makes some of the stupidest decisions a character can make in this movie. And I was sitting there looking at the screen like, oh my god, this is so stupid. It's not like Emma Watson isn't trying in this movie. She attempts to give a good performance, but it's just the writing for this character is so weak that there's a good chance you'll walk out of this movie not even remembering what her name was, despite the fact that the movie says it like 500 times or something. The rest of the characters pretty much all around are bland and one note, just like her. John Boyega's in this movie for like 10 to 15 minutes tops, if that. And I really don't remember any of his lines or what he was trying to do in this movie besides the fact that he was just giving Emma Watson a bunch of exposition and telling her that the circle might not be what she thinks it is. Let's talk about Tom Hanks, one of the best actors in cinematic history. Now, yes, you can say that he's been kind of hit or miss lately with some of the films that he's chosen, but virtually he's never done a movie where he's given a bad performance. He pretty much always gives at least a good performance. The guy's a master at transforming into characters. In this movie, not so much. First of all, he's in it way too little to warrant a spot on the poster. He is in it more than John Boyega is, but just by like 10 or 15 minutes. He plays like the CEO, boss of the company, and pretty much throughout all of this movie, he's just standing on stages telling people about what's going on in the company or their new ideas that they're about to unveil. But the trailers made him look like he was going to be like this bad guy that like originally starts out looking like a good guy, but then is doing something maniacal behind the scenes that nobody knows about. And he's none of that in this movie. He's just really, really boring. And we're talking about Tom frickin' Hanks here. This is a guy that I usually gravitate towards in movies. The story here, there pretty much isn't one. Like 60 to 70% of this movie is just a bunch of people in boardroom meetings or like company executives talking about their business, or Tom Hanks and Emma Watson on a stage in a very TED Talk kind of fashion, talking about the most absurd ideas I've ever heard to a crowd of people who react positively to everything they're saying. And it's like, this film is basically like what The Phantom Menace was to the Star Wars films. It also goes nowhere. There's no structure to this plot. Pretty much nothing interesting happens the entire movie. It's just like a bunch of people coming together and talking about all these world problems and trying to come up with solutions as to how to solve them through like social media and what this company specializes in. And it's like all these people having discussions about how to fix the world without actually doing anything. There's no arc. No one has a problem in this film that needs to be solved. The closest thing that comes to a problem in this movie is when people discover that maybe what the company is doing is an invasion of privacy. And by the end of the movie, nothing is really resolved. And I found the ending to be very stupid, along with most of this movie, I want to say. So is there anything I enjoyed about this movie? First of all, rest in peace, Bill Paxton. I can't believe he's gone. And he's actually one of the very few good things in this movie. He actually gives a pretty good performance. Unlike the other side characters in this movie, his performance is not stale and it's not fake, and it feels real. Also, the way this movie was shot was acceptable. I don't want to say it was great, but like, at least they didn't shoot it with a bunch of Dutch angles and stuff, you know? But is that really something to commend? I feel like I'm talking about what they didn't do as opposed to what they did do. Guys, I don't feel like talking about The Circle any more than I already have. It has incredibly bland characters, a weak script, it has really bland performances from a lot of really talented actors, it has very unconvincing performances from a lot of the lesser characters, and I very rarely want to walk out on movies when I see them in the theater, but I was so bored to tears by the second act of this movie that I genuinely felt like leaving. I'm gonna give The Circle a 3 out of 10. Don't waste your time with this movie. It's basically like the Transcendence of 2017. You remember that movie? Exactly. So guys, have you seen The Circle? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, thank you so much for watching this, and as always, I'll see you next time.